Ladies and gentlemen, you are now entering the Decent Christian Talk Podcast. Enjoy.
Decent Christian Talk, episode number 48. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Gabe Jones, as always. Took a little bit of a summer break at the end of the summer here. Usually we have 2 weeks in between episodes. This time we had 3 weeks. I had a little bit going on in my family. Nothing bad. It was good. It was a wedding. But we had to kind of focus all our energies on that for the time being. But now that that's over with, we can get back into our regular schedule. Thank you so much for joining us. We've got a great episode for you today. We've got Graceful Closure. This is actually the second time they've been on our podcast. They were on our podcast last summer as well. We caught up with them at the Consuming Fire Festival near Columbus, Ohio. And we're very happy to bring that podcast to you. But before we get to that, I'd like to tell you guys about our new Patreon page. Patreon.com/DecentChristianTalk gives you a chance to be a part of our podcast team. That's right, you, for as low as $1 a month, can help us out and join our podcast team just by giving us a little bit each month. This would help us take care of some of our costs. Unfortunately, when you do a podcast, there are some things that cost a little bit of money, and all we're trying to do is make up the cost for that, and you guys could definitely be a big part of that and a big help, and we definitely appreciate it. For as low as $1 a month, you can join our team, and we'd really appreciate that. There's other levels that you can also join on. There's a level for $5 a month, but you just need to go check that out at patreon.com/DecentChristianTalk. We've already got a couple people that are sponsoring us. We'd really like to thank Jody Smith and Garrett Godfried for sponsoring us. We would not be able to do this without your help. And to be honest with you, this is a podcast that is for the fans and by the fans. So we just really wanted to give you the chance to be a part of our team. And this is an easy way to do that for as low as $1 a month. That would be a big help if you could go check that out. Again, it's patreon.com/DecentChristianTalk. All right. Little advertisement is over with. Graceful Closure. They're a band that I kind of called the next big thing last year in 2016. And from the time that we had them on last time, which was probably around July last year, and you can go back into the archives and listen to that. They've had a little bit of a lineup change, but Jared is still there as the lead vocalist, and he's a lot of the creative mind behind the band, and they've really they've had a very successful year since we talked to them last time. They've had a couple singles being played on Christian radio stations across the country. One thing that we talked about in the interview is they've really gained a lot of momentum through places like Spotify. As you know, there are curated playlists that Spotify does, and they kind of promote. And when a band like Graceful Closure gets a song put on there, that's a way for other people to notice them, discover them, because they're subscribed to that playlist that they listen to regularly. And here's this band that they've never heard of before that's on the playlist now called Graceful Closure, and they go check them out. That's just kind of a new way that people discover music now, and it's just kind of this era of music. But it's very important, and we talk about that in the interview. But I really love this band. They're one of my favorites to listen to personally. It was great to catch up with him at the Consuming Fire Festival, and we're just going to take you to that interview right now. Without further ado, here is Jared Condon from Graceful Closure.
All right, hit that horn, babe. Let's dance.
All right, Consuming Fire Festival. How you guys doing over here? We got Graceful Closure, Mr. Jared Condon, the lead vocalist from Graceful Closure. How you doing, Jared?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good now that it's not raining cats and dogs.
Yeah, no kidding.
Aren't you from this area?
Yeah, so I'm from like 40 minutes away from here,
Okay.
Columbus area.
So
yeah.
you're used to this kind of weather this time
It's
of year.
awful almost all the time, yeah. I'm used to it.
Okay, so you've had like a couple singles that have dropped this past year.
Yes.
And they've kind of like blown up on Spotify.
Yes.
They've ended up on random thing playlist.
Yeah.
Like, how important is that for you guys? Because like our parents, they grew up with, okay, you got to get on radio.
Yeah.
Now you guys are faced with a kind of a different animal.
Yeah, totally. So radio is still really cool, and we definitely like getting on radio. With Spotify, which has been kind of crazy, it's the way the majority of young people are listening to music. So I think it's like they say 30% of all consumed music is through like streaming services, and they're just expecting that to continue to grow. And so for us, it's really cool because like we literally had someone reach out to us this week, and they're like, "Hey, we heard your song shopping in Zara." And like Zara is like a Spanish clothing line, and I'm like, which I actually love, but we don't have one here. But they're in like huge cities, so I'm like, if you don't mind me asking, like, what city were you in? They're like, oh, we were in something India, you know. And I'm just like, what? And it's from like the store in India was playing a Spotify playlist that we were on. So it's just kind of cool that kind of stuff can happen with like radio stations. Like it would have to be a local radio station, right? So it's a little bit different, but you're on one playlist, and anyone in the world can play that playlist. So I don't think it replaces radio because radio is so convenient. You can turn it on in your car. But it's just a different thing, and I think it's really cool.
How do you feel about fidget spinners?
Oh, gosh. Did you see my Twitter?
I did see your Twitter.
Follow me on Twitter, Jared Condon or Graceful Closure. Yeah, so I feel like this is a political question because so many people love fidget spinners. I personally do not really find any purpose in fidget spinners. Yeah. Someone asked us today. They're like, "Why don't you sell those at your merch table?" I was like, "Because by the time we order them, they'll be out of style. They're like a Pokemon Go thing. Like they're gonna last a few weeks and then be gone. It's too trendy."
That was actually my next segue question. How
Pokemon
do you
Go?
make not Pokemon Go, but Graceful Closure has, like Gabe said, kind of blown up recently. And how do you prevent from being a fidget spinner where you're Pokemon Go a few months from now?
Yeah,
and
that's a great
now
question.
You're just swept under the rug.
Hopefully, we keep creating awesome music.
Well, yeah.
If we start making terrible music, then we'll probably people get sick of us. So
that would probably be it.
yeah.
Okay, you guys have released. There's a song called "Until the Night Is Gone."
Yes.
That's one of my favorite songs
Same.
right now. Talk to us a little bit about that song and kind of the story behind writing that.
Sure. So it was, I think, January 2017, and I was on Snapchat, and I was going through, like, just watching people's stories, and I noticed it was nighttime, like really late at night, and I noticed that people's stories at nighttime are a lot darker. They're deeper sayings that they'll post with their picture. And a lot of the times with the people that I'm following, it has to do with battling like a lot of mental health stuff. And so I noticed at nighttime, it's like almost when stuff gets silent, those thoughts kind of start to come out. And so that's kind of what started that song in the sense of it says, I will conquer, right? And so until the night's gone, I'm going to fight with you through this and make it out. And so that's kind of where that song came from. And interesting with that song, I wrote it and I kind of forgot about it. Like I demoed it out in my little project studio at my house. And my brother and I, Chase, we were writing a ton of music. And that was just kind of one I did on my own kind of, and I forgot about it. And we went to the studio with our producer and we were kind of like going through a bunch of new songs, figuring out what we were going to record next and kind of commit to. Because that's a commitment when you, like, release it under your name, you know? So we're showing them all these songs that we wrote, and he's like, man, I'm loving this, loving that. And we were getting ready to start recording a new song, And I'm like, oh, there's a song that I completely forgot about. It's kind of got a cool little 80s shuffle vibe to it. Let me just play it for you real quick. And I played it for him, and he was like, dude, that's the song. Scratch the other one. Let's start this one. And we literally, like, started it and finished it in, like, 3 hours. Like, we recorded everything. Yeah.
So we've listened to both of your albums, and
Okay.
I think there's a really big difference between the sound in your first versus your second.
Sure.
So explain like how that transition went.
Yeah. So that's a transition, I think, between us as players and artists. Because, like, so in our EP Rev, we didn't really do any, like, synth programming. Like, not very much. I mean, it's there, you know, but we were super, like, into the instruments, the mechanical aspect of the instruments. I was going to school at a conservatory of music studying jazz guitar, so those things were really important, the mechanical side. But then after a while, you kind of like, okay, I've been doing this, I want to explore other things. And so we started exploring programming and synths and stuff like that, and that, I think that just led to a different way of doing the same songs, because I think you can hear the same sound, but it's almost like it's now masked in a different presentation in a way. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
Also, scrolling through your Twitter.
Oh no!
No. This is more of a serious
Scared.
question, because you kind of gave a shout out to what just recently happened in Barcelona.
Yeah.
So we asked before just a little bit about love, and that's what you kind of tweeted about. It's just, I know you just came from Virginia. I think
Yeah,
you said.
Richmond.
So,
yeah.
tell us a little bit about maybe the platform that you're on and trying to spread that love that is apparently missing in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were in Philly on Wednesday, and there was actually like helicopters everywhere over the venue, and there was, oh my goodness, like we saw like 13 police vehicles like in a row coming down, and we're like, what's going on? And like we're getting ready to go on stage, and I looked on Twitter, and it was trending. It said it was hashtag Philly is Charlottesville, yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh. And there was actually a march going on outside and everything. And I was like, man, this is just really crazy. And then, right, we went to Virginia just 2 days ago, or yesterday, and they were kind of talking about it there. And I don't know, man, I don't know if I have the words other than we need to learn how to truly love and embrace people regardless of where they're at or who they are or what they came from. And I think that, you know, as a believer, I equate that love to Christ, and learning that the ultimate sacrifice was he died on the cross. So he was completely selfless, completely gave himself. So like people like me, like John Mark McMillan, he has a new song out, and in it he says, for this savage love, you know, and that sometimes like I'll mess up and I'm just like, man, I'm a wreck, you know, but he still loves me. And I think learning how he treats us, then like we're Jesus to the world, and so we need to treat that. So for me, that's the kind of love that I try to show. And I think it's going to be different for everyone, but I think we've got to get to a point to where we truly promote kindness and love, and we look beyond who that person might be or what that person is involved in, and realize that they still have skin and bones, and they still have a heart, and they're still longing for relationship and love. And I think the only way to change that is to live it individually. I don't think you can scream it at people. I think you have to be the person that says, listen, I'm going to love that person regardless of what they are or who they came from or what that background might be.
Singing these songs of hope in front of a lot of different people, there's been a lot of things that's happened this year. The Charlottesville thing, Chester Bennington passing away, a lot of other guys, Soundgarden, Chris Cornell. What has been your experience with people that come up to you after shows and listen to your music and they're like, this has impacted me? What does that do for you spiritually, kind of giving you that extra push, I guess? I
think it keeps you going. Our hometown show was in the beginning of August 4th, I think. And we played the show. It was a beautiful night. And when we were done, I tweeted out, hey, let's meet in the front of the venue for anyone that's still here, and let's do an after acoustic show. And so we packed up all the gear. We went out front. There was like 20 kids that stayed around. And we were in the middle of playing a song, and people came from all over. We actually had someone fly from Australia to that show. It was wild in our hometown. And there's a girl from Illinois that came, and she like stopped us in the middle of singing, and she was like, hey, do you mind if I share something? And I'm like, it's unplugged, you know, sure. Like, we're just chilling out here on a sidewalk. And she said, a year ago, I was planning my death. And she said, a year ago to this week. And she said, the fact that I can be a part of this music and these people and find hope and realize that it's worth it for me to keep going, she said, is just overwhelming. And it was like all 20 of those people got in a circle and literally they didn't even know each other and just hugged and embraced her. And it was like one of the most, I was like nearly crying. It was like one of the most like incredible things, and just reminded me like to live it out and to be it. And these songs, like, I'll keep writing them until I feel like I'm not supposed to anymore. You know what I mean? But I think when you see that and you see the stories and you see the people that are lives are changed, music affects people, you know, for the better or the worse. And I think it's really cool being on the better side of that.
I heard a rumor that you played a show once upon a time with 21 Pilots. Is that real?
Oh,
Did that happen?
That did happen. Yeah.
What was that like?
So we were both teenagers. So and Josh wasn't in the group. It was Tyler and two other guys. And it was at a place called The Lot, which was a little venue that doesn't even exist anymore in Columbus. And they brought out like 15 people, and we brought out like 15 people, and there's basically like 30 people that we played to. And it was interesting. Yeah. But it was cool. It was like, and then I forgot about them, to be honest. And then like a year and a half later or 2 years later, they're like starting to play bigger venues and blowing up. And then I'm like, that's crazy. And then now they're just huge. Yeah.
So you guys are next, right?
We would like to think so. Yeah, sure.
I know that you're very interested in this next question because you're a homeschooler.
Oh, heavens.
So
how did you find that out?
I was a homeschooled as well, so I could just tell.
So you could just
standing
sense
here.
it. Okay. Creepy.
How interested are you? What are you going to do? Are you going to have a party for the eclipse that is coming up?
Dude,
on Monday?
I don't care. I really don't care.
It's so important, though.
No, I don't.
Can you write a song about it?
Sleeping at Last already did it, and they already released it. So, I mean, that's good enough for me. Yeah.
Well, I'm a little disappointed.
I'm sorry. Yeah, he's a better writer than I am, so I'll just listen to his song.
Okay, we talked about Twitter. How can people get in touch with Graceful Closure and read your fine posts and all that?
At Graceful Closure is our handle for all socials. So for Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, the handle's the same. And then our personal would be Jared Conant and Chase Conant. Chase posts dumb stuff, but you can follow him if you want to. I post great stuff. So, do you guys have anything coming out soon, or what's the timetable for that? We're in a season where we're writing a ton, and so we're going to keep writing and keep developing that. And so we're hoping to probably release more information on that and potentially more songs in the spring of 2018. So, yep. Well, guys, thank you so much. Give it up for Jared from Graceful Closure, those of you here. Hey, guys, if you want to check out our podcast, our email sign-up is right here. Thank you guys so much for listening. Yep, absolutely. Thank you.
That was our interview with Jared Condon from Graceful Closure. Really like to thank him for taking the time to talk with us. I say it a lot of the time, but when we do these festival interviews, it's really, it's a hectic time because there's a lot of artists coming and going. There's a pretty crazy schedule involved with festivals, but it means a lot when an artist will take time out to talk to you, and Jared is definitely cool and really down to earth, and I was really glad to talk with him about a lot of that stuff, and just hearing his perspective on things that he's experienced this summer, especially with the Charlottesville thing. That's an interesting conversation there. We've talked a lot on this podcast just about this past season 2, we've talked a lot about relationships and how we treat other people, and one way we've talked about it is the Charlottesville incident. We've talked about it with propaganda, with racial reconciliation, which is another relational aspect. And one way that we have really kind of seen on the forefront, at least here in the United States, the last couple of weeks has been these terrible, terrible storms that have hit our coasts. Hurricane Harvey and Hurricane Irma have hit Texas, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, a lot of the Gulf Coast area. It's just a lot of people have lost everything that they have. In our home state, I live in West Virginia. One thing that we've had to go through the last 2 years is some pretty devastating floods, which is honestly kind of rare in our area because of the mountains. But unfortunately, where there's mountains, there's also valleys, and we've also had some pretty devastating floods. Now, why am I saying this? Unfortunately, these circumstances happen, and they have happened over the course of humanity. These storms, these natural disasters, these just devastating things that Mother Nature causes. But what we see kind of from the ashes is kind of what gives people hope these days. Just the way that people will rally around communities and rally around people that have lost everything to prop them up and get them going again is so inspiring. I've seen this in my own community with our own unfortunate floodings, and I've seen it on a national aspect with people that want to get involved in some way. And that's awesome to see. And I think this is something that God has put in all of us. Just a natural, compassion, the want to help others. Unfortunately, I wish it would happen a little bit more. I wish it wouldn't just happen because of a reaction to a natural disaster. But it was very inspiring to see that. We saw a lot of stories about people who have lost everything, that are walking away from pretty much nothing. And, a camera will get stuck in their face, and a reporter will ask them how they're doing. And, obviously they're devastated, but they're thankful to be alive. And there's just a very, I don't know, there's something about that I'm just kind of grabbed onto these last few weeks. Just gratitude, compassion, just a lot of things that I wish that we saw a little bit more often in our community and in our nation. I hate these natural disasters. I hate them. And I hate that we have to have these for us to respond in the way that we do. We just passed the anniversary of 9/11. That's another event that happened in my lifetime where I just remember a lot of people just, loving on people that lost everything. And it's, it's really tough because, a lot of division in our country has happened in the last couple of years. And I just really, I hate that. I really do. And this is a scriptural thing. The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy, and that's what's happened in our country. The divisiveness is a way for the enemy to destroy us, and this has happened within Christianity, the American church. But I'm very inspired by the way that we all rallied around together, despite our differences, for the most part, and gave a little bit. And I just really would challenge you guys to continue to do that. There's going to be a great need in these areas for a long time. I mean, Hurricane Katrina, there's still, I mean, that happened 10 years ago, and there's still a need there in that community. You know, and if it's not on a national level, yeah, hey, get involved in your own local area. There's a lot of great ministries on the local level. There's already people in the trenches that are equipped to battle problems and issues, and all they need is your hands and feet. And I would just encourage you to get involved, whether it be financially or just practically. Give your muscle, give your time. You know, a lot of these homeless shelters, quite honestly, these people just need conversation partners. They need to relearn how to communicate with people, and that's a big thing. Get involved with your local university. There's a lot of foreign students that come in and don't know English and are just looking for someone to practice speaking English with. That's a great opportunity, just to show love, and that's awesome. And a lot of universities have conversational English programs. You know, those are just a couple ways off the top of my head that you can get involved. You know, just from this conversation with Graceful Closure. You know, showing love to this world is something that we need to do more often as believers and as Christ followers. And I'll just encourage you to go out and find a way to do that. You don't even have to do it by yourself. You can find a group of friends. Maybe you're involved in a community group at your own local church. Maybe you could take a couple people from there and serve a meal at your local homeless shelter. Especially with the holidays coming up, there will be a great need for that. But hey, that's about all that we got on this podcast this week. I would just like to thank you guys for joining us. Hey, if you haven't checked us out already on Instagram, we're on DC Talk Podcast. We're also on Facebook, Decent Christian Talk Podcast, and there's also a group, Decent Christian Talk Podcast. We're on Twitter, DC Talk Act 2, and we are also on Snapchat, DCT Podcast. And of course, you can check us out at decentchristiantalk.com. You can also donate to us on there. We talked at the beginning about our Patreon page. There's also a donate button on our website where you can just give a one-time donation if you'd like. We would definitely appreciate that. Hey, we're on iTunes, we're on YouTube, we're on SoundCloud for now, as long as that's still there. Give us a nice review on iTunes, and hey, share it with a friend. Share this podcast with a friend. We've got a great episode coming up. Number 50 is just on the horizon, and we will make that announcement on episode 49 on the next show. And it's going to be a fun show, number 50. Can't believe it's already 50. It's almost here. But anyway, thank you guys for joining us. We'll catch you next time. Peace.
Don't forget to tip your waiters and waitresses. Thanks.